Have you ever wondered what goes into your favorite brand's digital marketing strategy? I'm Tara, the founder of TJ Creative Agency.
And I'm Audrey, the creative marketing director of TJ Creative Agency. Whether you're an influencer, a business owner, a content creator, or just an overall creative person, we'll teach you how to create the perfect social media strategy and build your brand online. Welcome back to Social Sessions, everybody. We took last week off and gave you no notice, and we are so sorry for that. I was sick. And also out of town, and it was just a chaotic week. I think that's like one of 2 weeks that we've ever missed on
That's
this
not
podcast.
bad.
I think, yeah, I'm like, we've been around for about a year and a half, and we've only missed 2 weeks. So not bad. And the other one was like during the holiday season. So I feel like that we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, we're allowed to 2-week break, right?
Yeah, we're allowed to have a break during Christmas. Anyways, we're back. Hope you guys missed us or are excited to hear from us. We are talking about social media as it pertains to children. So Tara's going to kind of take over on this episode because obviously she has children and I do not. So that is what we're talking about this week. But before we jump into the actual topic, you already know we give you guys an update every week, some sort of social media update. And this week's update is one that I'm really excited about, and that is that you can save your TikToks before you post them. And this is so huge, especially for us as social media managers. It's huge because A, if you want to repurpose things, obviously, but B, like when we send things out for approval, I at least make a lot of things in TikTok. Like I'll edit them in CapCut and then I will add like text and stuff in the TikTok app. And I always have to screen record them.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I don't know. I don't like that. A is an extra step, but B, I feel like it looks bad. Like it doesn't, but I feel like it looks bad. So I actually just went over this with a client the other day because they repurpose it on a different account. A lot of the stuff that we make on TikTok, they repurpose it. And I was just saying that it's going to be a lot easier now because I can just save them instead of her having to go in and do the SnapTix situation. I was like, you can just pull straight from the calendar that I send you to repurpose on other apps.
That's so awesome.
Something we've all been waiting for
time.
So long.
And I feel like SnapTix, do you think they probably were like, dang, a lot of people are using this SnapTix thing like to remove this watermark? And
probably. I mean, I'm sure like people have been begging for this forever. Like even Instagram had it before. Granted, it doesn't save with the audio, but like most of the time if you're going to repurpose, you can find the audio
somewhere else
on the app that you're going to repurpose. So it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Or if you import your own audio, like if it's a video with your own audio, you can just save it. You can add text in Instagram and just save it as it is. It's only an audio issue, but still, Instagram had a version of this before TikTok did, which is kind of wild considering Instagram is never first to anything.
That's funny.
So anyways, that's the update of the week. Before we jump in to the main topic of the episode, I would love it if you rate and reviewed the podcast. Now, I'm not trying to call any of you out, but there's a lot of you that are like, oh my God, love the podcast. You're telling us that. And then you don't review the podcast. And to me, that's a little bit shady. So I'm just saying, if you can send us a text and say, loved this episode, you could also leave a review. Not to call anybody out. Hope you guys don't take that personally, but it was intended to be personal.
I know. It was.
Anyways, not to guilt trip you guys into leaving a review. We would just love it if you did. Anyways, now getting into the actual episode. Tara, you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the reason I chose today's topic is really because I think I obviously have worked in social since my kids were very little. So I have a bigger insight into what it is, what it does, all the things about it. And I'm constantly receiving questions from other parents about, maybe it's not even questions, it's a lot of comments, a lot of negative comments of how negative social media is, the negative impact it has. And I feel like I'm constantly defending it because it's my work. but also I think there is a lot of value in there. I just think parents are unaware, out of touch, and don't really know the platforms or how they work, or the ways that they can effectively, filter out some of the negative things. And actually, they do have control over a lot of the things that their kids see if they're aware of it. And so the reason I wanted to talk about that was because I think I've had 20 questions about that over the summer. Or parents I've heard say, I'm going to keep, or my kid doesn't have Snapchat, or my kid doesn't have that, my kid doesn't have that. And I can assure you they do. Even if you don't think they do, they will use it on another friend's phone. They
Yeah.
will, like, just because it's not on their phone does not mean they do not use it. And so I think parents are just completely blinded by it. And I think the episode today, I just really wanted to give some insight as a social media manager and agency on what I see and what I've had to do to prepare myself, to prepare my kids for what I know is happening to them and in front of them.
Yeah. That's
So
such a
that's,
good point that kids are gonna have it regardless. Like when I got a Facebook, I think I was in 6th grade, was like
yeah.
my first platform. And the deal was like my mom had to have my password too. She had to be able to log
Mhm.
in if she wanted to.
Yeah. And sometimes parents will use that as kind of I don't know how you would say that, bribery. What's the word for it? But like, I'm going to take your social away. Well, you can take their social away, which I think is really unfair and probably not a good move, because they're going to rebel greatly in the other direction. But I think you can say that, but they will always fight. They're smarter than we are in most cases, especially when it comes to
Yeah. I always got my phone taken away. That was my
And where did you go?
um
Did you go to
punishment.
school and log in on your friend's phone, or were you completely like, oh, I'll just stay off of it?
No, I kind of was just off of it.
Yeah.
I usually got it back, not to call my dad out, but he was a bit of a softie sometimes, and I would normally get ungrounded like 2 days into the grounding.
Yeah. I mean,
Or
I think,
I would like kind of guilt trip and be like, well, what am I supposed to do during practice? I can't get a hold of you.
yeah, which is true because I think, and I don't think that's bad. And that's why I think we all have to kind of just come to grips with like, this is how we communicate, period. So,
Yeah.
um, that's how they communicate. It's how we can communicate with them. And taking it away isn't necessarily the answer, I don't think. Um, so I wanted to, obviously, statistics help out. I did some research on the topic just because I do think it's important that there are probably way more articles about the negativity around social media compared to the positive from what I found doing the
Yeah.
research. But according to Pew Research, a majority of teens feel that social media provides them a place of connection, creativity, and support. Pew Research surveyed teens of a total of 1,316 ages 13 to 17 in April of 2022. And 8 out of 10 teens said that they felt connected to what was going on in their peers' lives. 71% said it gave them a place to share their creative side, while 67 said it is a place they go for support during a tough time or something they can't talk to their parents about.
Well, that's interesting that that's like a statistic because I think when people talk about like the negative side of social media, there is a negative side, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
always I think people think of like their Instagram accounts and their TikTok accounts where it's their face. But like one of the beauties in this instance is that you can be anonymous on certain platforms. So
Mm-hmm.
like I even think about like my junior year of high school. I used Tumblr a lot as like a and I to be honest couldn't even tell you what my Tumblr name was. Like I don't
Yeah.
it had nothing to do with my name. My face was not on it at all. But it was like I had a really tough junior year just with like mental health and blah 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 and whatever. And I remember using that as a like I can't talk to anybody else about this. Like I don't feel like anyone else gets it, but there's like other people on the internet that I don't know but
Mm-hmm.
who's like posting about their similar situations.
Yeah.
So like in that regard, the anonymousness of the internet can actually be helpful.
Yeah. I think so too. I think that they say that 32% said the effects are mostly positive, 9% said that social media is negative, and 59% said social media has neither a negative or a positive effect on them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because I think culture and parents always look for ways to demonize whatever the current medium of media is. I mean, if you look back, Gary
Yeah.
Vee talks about this all the time, but like my generation, you spoke of Facebook, mine would be like chat rooms or like teen Vogue that like made us think negatively about our self-image, or our parents, it was movies, and maybe it was the music that was coming out. Like we're always trying to find ways to demonize media. And so I think we need to actually take a step back and look at like our parenting skills and how we're equipping our kids to actually handle the space, you know?
Yeah.
If anything, I think it brings it more to the forefront where it's in our face. Like you cannot turn away from it. You can't not address it. You can't not talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's opening a lot of conversations that were maybe not there years before.
And I
You know what
do
I mean?
think it's true. Like, it's more, you can't really not expect your kid not to be on social media. A,
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, they're going to be on it regardless. But B, like, it's kind of not fair in the sense of if everyone else in their class or in their grade has it and they're the only one, it's almost like a social thing in the sense of like they're not communicating with their peers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously they can talk to them on, in person and whatever, but it's like another level of like they're almost being left out, and you obviously
Yep.
don't want your kid to feel that way, but it
Mm-hmm.
really is like having that conversation of how to use social media. And it's kind of conversation is kind of reminding me of like our conversation with Andy about bullying, where she was like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of preventative things that people try and do, but there's not anything for like when you're going through it. And that's kind of what it feels like here. Like there's a lot of people being like, just don't use social media and that will solve the problem. Don't let your kids online. That will solve the problem. Instead of being like, no, we need to like deal with how they're going to use it because it's inevitable, right? Like we just need to have the conversation of like the right way to use it.
Yeah, the right way to use it. And we have that conversation all the time, even amongst ourselves as social media managers or adults, even, right? Like we have to train ourselves certain habits, and we have to take breaks, and like we have to teach them that that's how it's supposed to be used, and be
Yeah.
an example of that. I also think it's important that we know every single platform that there is. I think some people get honed in. Oh, I know Facebook or I know Instagram, so I'm good. Well, your kids, unfortunately, generationally, there's almost a social platform for each generation, right? In the way that
Yeah.
I see it different times, like Facebook is like grandparents, Instagram is like parents, TikTok is kids, and Snapchat is kids, teens. I feel like so it's just like where are your kids at and what are they using that platform for? And I think that's a good lead into that next topic, which is understanding the social media landscape, what each platform serves, what they're doing there typically, what somebody is going there for, the kind of information they're going there for, because they're going for different stuff for different things, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'll talk about on the next part, which is just we'll start with Instagram because I think it's the most popular, most familiar we are.
Yeah.
It's
I do think Instagram is, like you said, it's a lot more popular, and I honestly don't know how much kids use Instagram.
I don't
Like I
either.
don't know
Yeah.
if that's the place to be. I think one of the main things that's nice about Instagram through their eyes is that you can have a group message. Believe
Mm-hmm.
that's the only platform where you can have a group message, well, except for Facebook. But like, to be honest, I don't think any of the kids are on Facebook.
No.
Um, so I think that's maybe one of the reasons. But even I remember, like, I had this conversation when I was in college. We had like a big group message at the coffee shop that I worked at for memes. And
Mm.
all of us were like, there were a handful of people that were like, I want to send the memes in here. And we were like, we've literally already seen these on Twitter. Like, you see these on Twitter first. So, like, even in that sense, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
it still felt outdated in terms of like, we use it because this is our job. And like, we use it to, I think it's mostly used to promote either your business or your side hustle or your music or whatever it is, to like get a message across to
Mm-hmm.
like a large audience, but it's not so much used like in the way that most social platforms are used.
Yeah, or as like a communication tool. It's more of a
Yeah.
storefront. We talk about it's more of a place to like build your personal brand or your brand, it's a place to network. And kids, I think it go like you were saying, if they're on there, it's usually for DM or for
Hmm.
stories. They're not posting to their main feed. Therefore, there's not a lot of others in their groups that are posting to their main feed. Maybe they look at influencers, I would say, maybe would be some of the things they look at when they're there.
But even then, I don't think they do. I think if they're going to look
Mhm.
at influencers at all, it's on TikTok
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe YouTube.
And maybe YouTube. Yeah. I do too. It's interesting because it's like, I think parents just always think like, oh, that's where it is because that's where I'm at. Right. But
Right.
it's really not. And I think um, it's important for them to know that, all of you
Yeah.
parents to know that. The next one is Snapchat, and I talked to Audrey a little bit before we started about this because I felt like she was that generation uh, after me that kind of used initially started with Snapchat, and so if you want to talk a little bit
I
about how.
remember it coming out. I remember being like, I think I was in line at like a midnight premiere for a movie. And one of the girls was like, like, I don't know why this is such a vivid memory, but she was like talking about Snapchat. Like everybody was just starting to get it. And I remember being like, why the hell would I get this? Like, why would I send a picture that's what is the point? And then I
Mhm.
got it. And I used it like in high school a little bit, but like, now that I'm thinking about it, I've only used it for mischievous reasons. I've never used it like, I remember inviting a boy over in high school, and that was, like, my way of communicating. It was either that or Twitter, like, I don't remember, but, like, that's how I was talking to people, or, like,
Mhm.
again, it's like the group chats were big, at least for me, like, in high school and college. Um, the group chat was really big, so
About
everybody could
we
just
talked a little bit about like the streaks and stuff because I remember
yeah,
and
that people like I still have a lot of friends that are on it, and use it just a lot for just like regular conversation. And everybody wants to keep their streaks up. Personally, I have never cared or understood like the importance of keeping your streak, but a ton of people that I know do. They're like, "Oh my god, got to keep it going." And they'll send a picture of like their foot or
yeah.
like the ground just for the sake of keeping the streak up. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like I don't I think it's dumb, but I
Do
feel
you
like the
think
minority
that
in that situation.
do you feel like it almost though the casualty of it or the unedited version? I feel like that's where it started to take like root in like
Yeah,
authenticity.
probably. And what I do know is that a lot of people that I talk to now, okay, I just told Tara before we started recording, I just re-downloaded Snapchat like last week. Um and I hadn't had it for like a year. Probably like over I had it on my phone before that, but never ever ever opened anything. So like people would send me something and I don't have my notifications turned on either.
Yeah.
So it would be like 3 weeks until I opened someone's Snapchat and then they'd be like, I don't even know what I sent you. And I'm like, sorry, I just don't use it. But I downloaded it the other day and I was at the Beyonce concert and like posted something and I was like, I'm back to let you know that I'm like seeing Beyonce. And that's the only thing I posted in the week that I've had it. But my friend was like, I don't even use it for stories. Like and I don't think most people use it for stories. Like maybe occasionally they'll put something on their public story. But most of the time I have a lot of friends that use Snapchat. They've really like narrowed down who's their friend on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends use it like Instagram's close friends.
Hmm.
That's probably the main way that I see people use it, or just individually like sending things to one person at a time, just like a communication method.
My question, because I was telling Audrey too that this is probably the one I'm the least educated on, and I need to spend more time over there. But is there like a for you? Is there a algorithm? Is there a content being pushed? Because I do know that
There's
sometimes you.
like Snapchat, they put energy into it for a while. They put some money
Mhm.
behind it. They had like the Daily Mail was on there, and like that's the only one I can remember. There was like a Food Network. Like people had
Weren't the
shows. I remember Katie.
Kardashians like pretty like active
They
in some of
used to,
those?
like, a long time ago, I think Kylie used to be really big on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Now, like, I do think there's to be honest, I don't know because I don't really use Snapchat, but I do know that they're paying their creators because I've seen a lot more
Hmm.
creators go over there, but it's not like a for you page situation. It's just like you have to follow them.
You
So
have
you
to
have to
find
search them
them.
out.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have to search them out. But the only like kind of explore page, if you will, was the like publications where it was like Daily Mail, it
Okay.
was like Teen Vogue, it was whatever, and it was just whatever. That's how I got my news for a little bit.
It was like a
And the
news source, kind of.
Yeah, it was like it was kind of just like stories. They would just put things up every day. But yeah, now it's more I think you have to, and it used to be huge for creators. Like I said, Kylie Jenner used to be really big on there. I think I used to follow um like DJ Khaled, I think used to be really big on
Hmm.
Snapchat. And then it kind of went away. That's why I'm like, I think that they're paying. I haven't looked into it, but a lot of people have. I know David Dobrik is big on there. Logan Paul is posting a lot on Snapchat. Josh Richards is posting a lot on Snapchat. So I'm 99% sure they're just paying better and they
Hmm.
wanted people back on their platform. Um, but yeah, I think it's like a
One thing
communication thing and a close friends situation.
situation and a messaging thing, right? Like my kids, like
Yeah.
Paxton, who is 12, is using that for text. Like he doesn't use it. I can go to his text messages thinking I'm going to find some like incredible discovery, and there's nothing
And
there.
there's nothing there. Yeah.
So it's definitely
So
where they're
that's this is
communicating.
this is what I had said to Tara too, is that it's funny because Snapchat was invented, right? Because things would disappear after you open them.
Hmm.
But I had so many friends, even like in college, that would use it, like you said, as a way to communicate. But they would save every single message because that's how they were communicating. So it's like the original intention of Snapchat was for things to disappear. And
Hmm.
people started using it to communicate for the exact like opposite reason, and they were saving everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's funny how it just kind of like found its own way. I do also think parents should note that I do think there is some, the one thing I've noticed, like, because we've done like surgery stuff or anything like that, doesn't, there's no filter system, I don't, that I'm aware of
No, I
over
don't think
there.
so either.
And so that
There's
is,
like probably, I think, community guidelines, but like things don't necessarily get like taken down.
yeah, as to where TikTok is probably the strongest, Instagram second. So I would
Yeah.
be aware of that and cautious of that to know that there is, they may see things that um, aren't filtered out.
Well, we're on things that aren't filtered. I know this isn't like the next platform, and I don't know if this is
Yeah, it's fine.
necessarily on the on the agenda, but if there's one platform that's not filtered, it's Twitter. You can
Oh
log on
yeah,
Twitter and
I've
watch
been,
someone
yeah.
dying. Like you can, dude, Twitter is absolutely insane the things you can see on there. You log on and see things that you wish you never saw. It's giving Reddit, it's giving
Yeah.
black market, it's giving like I the Twitter's another one that I don't use. I used to use it like religiously in high school. I used it all the time. Um but I always say it's my least funny medium. I'm not good over text, so I
Yeah.
don't use it because it doesn't ever come across the way I want it to come across. But yeah, Twitter's like insane things over there.
Yeah.
Nothing is
It's another
censored.
thing. Yeah,
Nothing
no
is.
sensory.
So if
Yeah.
there's actually one platform I would say parents should be wary of their kids being on, I would say it's Twitter.
Is Twitter because it's just searching and it will find it. It comes up
It's
immediately.
insane. Like just the things that would like be DM to me, I'm like, I don't want to see this actually. It feels scarring to me. And I don't want to get into the details, but those of you that know, you know. You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about.
And I almost feel like you said, the dark web, and that's really where a lot of that kind of stuff happened, or it was like Discord or Reddit. Like, are those some of those other platforms that are a little bit more unfiltered, and you kind of really don't know who is on the other side of that
Yeah.
communication or video or whatever.
Yeah.
But definitely navigating them and knowing and getting on them and spending time on them is so important. TikTok, I think, has a bad reputation, and I think it's one of the safer versions of social media. It has a For You page that I think gives us insight into what our kids are searching. One thing I'll do with Paxton pretty regularly is look at his For You page on TikTok. That will give me insight into things he's searching, what he's looking at, the kind of content he's looking at. So I think that is one of the most valuable tools that and tips I could give someone is to really just when you go to their Instagram or their TikTok, you'll be able to kind of have a good idea of what they're looking at. And so they also have a page called what is it called? STEM, right? And STEM
Yeah.
is
Do
going to
they
be
still have that?
they do, yeah. And that is to push educational content or content that is going to bring some sort of value. I think. I mean, I've gotten on there and been like, "Wow, this is insane." Maybe it's
Yeah.
it's short form YouTube how to or why something is the. It's very scientific and it's a good place too. So I think they're providing that. They're providing the For You page, and then the
I
followers.
think
So.
TikTok is like the most entertaining out of
Mm-hmm.
all of the platforms, which I think is how kids typically find it too. Like there's much less like community around TikTok. There's community in the sense of like everybody's commenting on things, and there's a community in that sense. Like engagement's always much higher on TikTok, but less community in the sense of like you're not really talking. I just send videos to people. I never respond,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. I'm
Yeah.
assuming this is how everybody else does it. I don't ever respond. Like I watch everything my friends send me, but I don't ever respond. I don't like anything unless it's like I don't know, really funny or like an inside joke or something like that. Most of the time, you're not really like chatting. You're not using it to communicate. You're just
Yeah.
like
Consume.
sending videos back and forth.
Yeah. That's so true. Like I think some people like speak in TikTok, they just either through sounds or sending videos to and from each other.
Yeah.
Also, something I think that's valuable has come been valuable as somebody that works in this space is that when you look at it's I think it's important to look at these platforms from a marketer's point of view. We're creating content for the algorithm, and our goal is to get in front of the buyer, the patient, the client, whoever, the customer. Um, and so knowing the motive, I guess, behind some of the content that your kids are being exposed to, you're able to help explain and help them understand um, that and why they're seeing it and what that might mean. And maybe it doesn't mean what you think it means. I think there's a
I
marketing
think it's
mindset
also
too.
worth saying that like the main goal of most people and the algorithms in general, the main goal of the algorithm is to keep you or your kids on the platform for as long as possible. And I think that's where a lot of this conversation comes down to is yes, there's the conversation of like what's appropriate for kids to be watching and talking about and whatever. But I think one of the bigger concerns is how much time is your kid on a
On.
screen versus in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind when like it's designed to keep you on the app. That's the whole purpose. That's how all of the algorithms work. They want to keep you on there as long as possible. So that's something worth like thinking about and like setting timers on and things like that. Like that's really the purpose.
Yeah, it is. Just being mindful. I mean, we have to do it for ourselves as much as we need to teach them how to do it. And they are a replication of what we do. We have the ability to kind of take ownership of that and guide them. Um, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, I just reiterating the responsibility of like the parent. When I love Gary Vee, obviously, but he talks a lot about this because when you work in the social space, you get a lot of negative feedback
Mm-hmm.
about it. You know what I mean? And so you're constantly like defending it, and I feel like he does that a lot. Something he said in a video, he said the best thing that we can do for our kids is build their own self-esteem and self-worth, and that we as parents demonize a platform that is exposing us, not changing us. So we want to say that it's changing the behavior or changing the kid or making them depressed. It's just exposing what is already there almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so we need to look at the bigger picture when it comes to that and not blame social media, but take responsibility and accountability as parents.
Yeah.
Um, and that we need to be more conscious of instilling confidence and self-esteem and help teach them in ways to navigate the world and be confident
And
in this type
it
of
is
world.
true because like if you have a good sense of self, which is hard to do as a kid, but like if you have a good sense of self, the things that you see on social media shouldn't be
As
as
a
like
pack. Mm-hmm.
impactful
Mm-hmm.
versus like for this is like kind of a weird example, but just like roll with me for a second. Like ADHD was like weirdly a huge trend on TikTok over the last however long. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody was like, all of a sudden, everyone's like, I have ADHD. I saw it on TikTok, so I have ADHD. Everybody's like self-diagnosing themselves with
Yeah.
everything. But like if you know yourself, like you're not gonna just be like, oh, let me diagnose whatever weird isn't the right word, but like weirdly mental health
Mm-hmm.
stigmas kind of trend on social media.
Yeah.
But if you like know yourself, you're not just going to be like, oh, I'm like that. Like, this is me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, again, sounds like a weird example, but like,
No,
it
it's not.
shouldn't,
But also,
you know, it.
I also think kids are much more aware of that, I want to say, than we were, just because it is played out so clearly in so many different ways in so many different mediums. But I think
I just think, if anything, like this social media as it pertains to kids, like, it doesn't necessarily come down to like rules around social media, but more so like really working with your kids on figuring out like who they are and like you said
Mhm.
building that self-esteem and building that out and that sense of self and confidence in themselves, like that is what you should be focusing on more so than like don't be on this platform or don't be, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like just like setting rules. I think it's a lot more psychological than just saying do this or don't do this.
There's a quote Anthony uses all the time, and and he says, "Prepare the prepare the kid for the road, not the road for the kid." Or is that right? Don't prepare the
I'm like, I
kid.
don't know it, but it makes
Okay,
sense.
yeah, prepare the kid for the road, not the road for the kid. We're constantly trying to like keep them from like having these experiences, but there is no, you know what I mean? Like there's no
Yeah.
escaping. So
You can't
prepare
like
them.
shield them from everything. Instead, you can
Hmm.
prepare them for what you know is going to come their way.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I think we as parents and people in the future, especially, and I don't know what AI is going to do. I think that's going to be a whole other game. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a conversation we have uh, later. But I think parents just need to get familiar with all of them and they need to get on them and they need to
I
use
also
them.
think like this is almost beyond social media, but like your kids are learning from you. If you spend every second of every day on social media,
Mm-hmm.
your kid is going to do the same thing. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't necessarily it's quite hypocritical of you to be like, go out and play when they see you on the phone all the time. You know what I mean?
And you're
And
not
it's the
going out.
same way.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's the same thing with everything. If you're talking bad about yourself, your kid's going to learn to talk bad about themselves. If you have low self-esteem and like use drinking as a coping mechanism, don't be surprised if your teenage kid starts doing the same thing. Like they mirror what you do.
exactly. They mirror what we do. One thing lastly, I'll close up with this. I just wanted to give a couple resources that I found that were pretty, I think, valuable. One of them is called Common Sense Media, um, commonsensemedia.org. That's a place where you can actually go and put in your kid's age. They review every movie, every app, every game based on a kid's age, whether it's appropriate, gives you just insight into all of it. I kind of went through it just now before we got on here to kind of test it, but it goes through like movies, TV shows, YouTube channels, apps, podcasts, books they're reading. I mean, there's so many things. If there's something you are concerned about, it's a great resource to go. Or if you want to learn about a specific game or movie or platform they're on. Another one is, I guess it would go back to bullying, but like one of the main concerns you hear from parents is like, well, they don't realize that what they're putting online is out there forever. I think they do realize that. I think everybody
Yeah.
knows that by now. But there's a website called takeitdown.org, which if there is anything that they have put up that needs to come down, there is a resource for you as a parent to start that process. And those are a couple things that I think could help somebody that doesn't know where to start.
Yeah. I like that.
Yes. So
Well,
that was it. I really just think I wanted to bring it. Hope now I'm just going to point anybody that asks me this question to this
to
podcast,
this episode.
and I won't ever have to answer the question again. So,
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you next week.
have a good week.